Alright, so we're going to talk about something I forgot to mention in my chapter review this week. I just completely lost my mind. I wanted to talk about other things, and I was getting so tied up in that I didn't even think to mention what happened with Zoro. And a lot of people have a lot of opinions on it and what it may be. But I just wanted to have a discussion on what this means for One Piece swords, right? Because this is going to be very important. If you don't know, Zoro basically had what looks to be an hallucination of the Grim Reaper with his big ass scythe. He looks and he's like, get away from me, get away from me. And everyone's pointing out the fact that Zoro went in pre-time skip, I would even take on the Grim Reaper himself. So everyone's having a field day with this. But I feel like this means so much more for the series and swords in general. And I can't wait to jump into it because it's extraordinarily interesting. With the idea of like, the inherited will concept in One Piece is being pulled in so many directions recently. With now the direction of like, what I'm thinking is, swords have their own personality. We know that very well. But now, here's another application for Conqueror's Haki. When you acquire Conqueror's Haki, you acquire the ability to see the form of your sword. To see the personality of your sword in a sense. And I feel like that is another application for it. You are not able to be a top swordsman without it, without advanced conquerors, in my opinion. It's kind of like, I don't know if you remember this, but it's kind of, my opinion is kind of like, you know the way in DxD at the start of the series, like the main character can't hear like the dragon from his sacred gear thing, can't hear him because he's too weak. It's kind of like that, right? So it's kind of, you can't hear your sword until you get advanced conquerors, and then you have to in order to make it a black blade, then you have to basically conquer your sword, or like kind of come to an agreement with your sword and kind of merge with it in a way. And I feel like at that point then I have this idea that like part of you, like when you die, like part of you lives on within the sword. That would explain all the talking about Odin's presence and stuff. And I think that'd be really cool, because I don't want it to be like, oh, afterlife is being shown in One Piece, because to be honest, I don't want to go in depth with that in One Piece. I feel like it could be interesting, but I feel like, I don't know, it's probably best to leave it vague, because that's what it's like in life, you know? And I feel like the underworld specifically doesn't need to be touched on too much, because the more Pacific he tries to get with the underworld, the less he can play with it with Brook. So I kind of prefer vaguity, so he can just have gags here and there about Brook. Personally, myself. But this is the King of Hell. This is the sword that is supposed to be the King of Hell. So this basically is his final test to get that moniker. Zoro's final test. So he's either going to have to fight the embodiment of his swords, which will be really cool, because the aesthetic... Although, actually, I wanted to talk about the aesthetic. The aesthetic is cool and all, right? The aesthetic looks cool. The art and the way it was drawn, really sick. Top tier Oda. But I have to say, that design is very stereotypical for One Piece's King of Hell. You know, the King of Hell of one of the biggest fictional stories in the world. I just would have thought that the design would have been more extravagant. I don't know. That's my own fault, personally, I'd say. Because, as I said, it kind of... contradicts my point about being more vague about the afterlife if I wanted the King of Hell to have a more extravagant design. But I just feel like it's a little bit of a missed opportunity to not give Emma a uniquer design than just Demon with a sword or Demon with a scythe. Now, what do I think is going to happen? That is the question. How do I feel like Oda's going to pull this off? So obviously, this could literally just be an hallucination, and Zoro's like facing the idea that he might die because of all the damage he's taken, and he has to overcome that or something. I don't have a fucking clue. But I would rather it be like he has to confront Enma. Like his claim at the end of the arc kind of set off Enma, and he's like, he's gotta confront him. You know what I mean? Odin, I don't know, but like my problem with this is, if this is how you have a black blade, you have to confront your sword. You have to kind of not befriend it, because I feel like you can't, like befriending it would be kind of weird. Kind of just come to an understanding with it, you know. You're on you're in the same wavelength. You have to get a black blade, you and your sword have to be on the same wavelength. And the only way to do that is to have Conqueror's Hockey to somehow influence your sword's personality to match yours more so. Slightly. But it is weird because Odin is shown to have Conqueror's Hockey, right? So it's like this contradicts because we're thinking Odin of all people should have been able to get a black blade. But what if, right? Odin is a very Luffy type person, and I feel like that a sword like Enma, just like no matter how much you try and make it will it down, if he can control it, it bend its will to Odin, but it never aligned with Odin. You know what I mean? It was like, here's my opinion on Enma, right? Enma was too weak to fight Odin, but it never aligned itself with Odin. You know what I mean? It itself never thought Odin, like, it never thought Odin is my master, right? It was kind of controlled by Odin. It never agreed with Odin or anything he was ever doing. Whereas I think Zoro's the type of person that can make Enma himself align with Zoro to turn it into a black blade. That's why they say you have to understand your sword's feelings. You know what I mean? I feel like Odin was a master conqueror. He could conquer the sword, but he couldn't understand it and he couldn't come to terms with it. They were completely separate people in terms of personality, so Enma never worked for Odin to the fullest extent and never became a black blade. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't make sense half the time. But I don't know, I really like that idea in a way. Maybe I'm full of shit. I don't know. Probably am. But I feel like that's very interesting because, as I said before, it opens up a world of possibilities. We can have a possibility where, like, you can, if you're so in tune with your sword, you can kind of slightly look into past of people, like not the past, but kind of like understand how the previous users used it. Like, you know what I mean? You can't see their memories, but like you can see their imprint on the sword. Like maybe, for example, let's say Zoro, right? He feels Odin's presence and he kind of gets better as he gets better as a swordsman with Enma. He starts to mix and match his own techniques with Odin, as for some reason the presence of Odin is kind of implementing itself into his style. That'd be cool in small ways. I don't want there to be like, oh, you can, like in DxD where like the main character can talk to the previous wielders of his ability. I don't kind of want it to be like that. That's too much for One Piece. It would be cool though. I wouldn't be against it if Oda did it well. I just feel like, nah, Odin's dead now and Roger's dead. Because then you could work in a way like, oh my god, Shanks has Ace and he's been talking to Roger this entire time and that's how he knows it. No, I wouldn't like that. You know what I mean? So it's a very tight rope to be walking with this. There's a lot that could be done. It's very interesting. I feel like the idea of a black blade is going to be expanded in a way, but it's a so difficult line to walk because so many people haven't had black blades. Hell, not even to mention the fact Ace, the sword of the Pirate King, as far as we know, was not a black blade. Or at least maybe he made it a black blade within the year of him going to Rouge. But it wasn't a black blade when we saw it. Neither was Whitebeard's weapon. So you have to really, like, for Oda to justify these people not having black blades, he's either going to have to retcon the fuck out of it, or he's going to have to make it seem understandable, you know? Maybe somehow. I don't know how he's going to do it. I feel like the idea of, you know, you can conquer a blade, but if you don't align if your personality doesn't align yourself with the blade's personality, you can never acquire a black blade. You know? I don't know. Maybe. I think that's interesting, and I feel like the idea of, you know, fighting styles and printing on owners is interesting as well. And that way we can get Zoro using older techniques or changing up his fighting style a wee bit in a cool way. But it's not too much into the afterlife aesthetic of One Piece. Oh, there's a lot to be said. And I think it's going to make it very interesting for things like the next wielder of the Ace Sword or Yoru, you know? All this stuff is very interesting and shit. And even fucking Sabo's pipe. Could you imagine, like, years from now? The legendary pipe of the revolutionary chief of staff, Sabo. This pipe has been passed down for generations. It is now a black pipe. It is the most powerful pipe in all of existence. Here you go. And then just bam, all the fucking energy flattens the city. Boys, that's the true ending of One Piece. Sabo's pipe is so powerful it just flattens this. Once it becomes a black pipe, it just flattens the city. That's the true ending of One Piece, everybody. There we go. Nah, I think it's amazing. Oh, could you imagine this though? Right? What if it's any weapon, not just a black blade, right? And we get Luffy's sandals become. That would be hilarious. Oh my god, I want that now. The legendary sandals become the black sandals. He puts the sandal down, and the fucking ocean parts. He just puts the sandal on the top of the sunny and the fucking ocean parts in hell. Oh, that'd be the fucking funniest shit. It's just a very interesting topic. And you know, we see the things with black blades, but can it apply to any weapon, as I was saying with Sabo's pipe? There's so much, because there is so much stuff you can add to it with looking into the past. You can... Oh my god, it's like... There's a lot, and I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm looking forward to see how it goes, what Oda does with it. But with that being said, what do you guys think is the future for black blades in One Piece? And do you think that Sabo's pipe is going to be the most powerful weapon in all of One Piece by the end of the series, and it will flatten Earths just by the presence of it. Flatten towns just by the presence of it. I do. And the Sabo agenda is real on this channel. Yes, the Sabo agenda. Oh yeah, speaking of the Sabo agenda, if you haven't seen that video, I made a video. I'll put it, well, I don't think I'll put it up there, but it'll be in the end screen or on the little annotation joke. And in the link in the description to go watch my Sabo top 5 video. If you want to go see that, speaking of which. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. And cheers.